Hey y'all, it's Miss A. Today our topic is ordering rational numbers. So let's get started. In order to easily compare and order rational numbers, you must first convert. Remember, convert just means to change. You must convert each number into the same form. When I say the same form, I mean make everything into a decimal, make everything into a percent or a fraction, whatever you choose. The only one I recommend definitely not doing is a fraction, because fractions are tricky. They have to have the same denominator in order to be able to easily be compared. So I personally recommend converting everything into a decimal. So I recommend decimals. A couple things you need to remember before we get started. Number one, when you are converting fractions into decimals, the fraction bar means division. So we are literally dividing the numerator by the denominator. So for example, if I had 3 over 4, this is literally saying 3 divided by 4. So I'd set up my division problem and I would take the numerator, put it inside, and divide it by the denominator of 4. And we can remember this by TIBO. Top, in, bottom, out. Top number goes in, bottom number goes out. All right, number 2 says to convert a percent into a decimal, you have to divide by 100, or you can simply move the decimal 2 places to the left. So for example, if I had 30%, I would first of all place the decimal here because there's not a decimal to move, and then I would do PD. Remember, PD goes to the left twice. So we're going to take this decimal, move it once, twice, and we get 0.30, or I could put a 0 in front to get 30 hundredths. All right, and then the next thing we're going to talk about is ascending versus descending, because these get kind of confusing. Ascending means you are going up, so that is least to greatest. And then descending means you're going down, so that's greatest to least. I'm sorry if I feel like I'm going kind of fast. I made an entire video and found out that it was too big to upload into Canvas. So I'm trying to go a little bit faster on these. All right, the steps to ordering rational numbers. These are my personal steps. If you follow these steps, it's going to be a lot easier to order them, I promise. Number 1, convert all numbers to decimals. So everything needs to be made into a decimal first. Then we can line up the decimals. We kind of do this as we convert them. I'm going to show you how I do it. So it kind of takes 2 steps in one. Number 3, add zeros. Put the wrong word. Add zeros to make all numbers have the same place value. What I mean is if one number has 3 decimal places, then all of them need to have 3 decimal places. Whatever the biggest one is, all of them need to have it. And there's going to be a special time where we're going to add repeating digits instead of zeros, and we're going to actually see that later in an example. And then number 4, you can finally put them in order. So these are your 4 steps. Convert them to decimals, line up the decimals, add zeros or repeating digits so they all have the same place value, and then we can put them in order. Alright, so let's get started on an example. Of course, I didn't mention this earlier, but make sure you are taking notes and following along. If you're at home, get out your journal, piece of paper, spiral, whatever it is, and write these examples down with me. My in-person kids, you have this paper in front of you. Alright, so our first example says to order the following set of rational numbers in descending order. So we talked earlier how descending means you're going down. Descending goes down, so that is greatest, because you're starting big, and you're going lower. So greatest to least. Alright, now we notice here that we have a couple fractions. We have a decimal, and a percent. So again, we need to remember our 4 steps. Number 1, convert all numbers into a decimal. So let's start by doing that. One thing I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to list all of my numbers so I can put the decimals beside it. So 4/3 equals. And the reason I'm doing this is because whenever I list my numbers later, when I put them in order from greatest to least, I have to make sure I put them in this form, not my decimal form. The answers, or if it's a multiple choice, the answers are going to be in the original form. All right, just like when I did the integers, I'm going to put my blanks. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're putting these in order from greatest to least. So I'm going to go ahead and label that. All right, now let's get into converting. So notice that a couple of these are already in decimal form. So I'm just going to write those over here. And this time I'm going to make sure I line up decimals and place value. So negative 0.09. Make sure they're neat, guys. You don't want them squished together. All right, 1.3. Notice I'm lining up the place values in the decimal. All right, so those are done. And then 85% is really easy to convert. So let's do that one first. So we're going to convert 85% into a decimal. That's PD. PD moves it 2 places to the left. So I'm going to place my decimal at the back. And then I can move it 2 places to the left. Once, twice. And we get 0.85 or 85 hundredths. All right, I'm going to put that here. Again, lining up my decimals. So my decimal goes here. And then I have 8 and 5. Again, make sure not only the decimals, but line up your place values. Make sure there's one number on top of the other. They're not squished or in between. All right, and then now we have to convert these two into decimals. So let's start with this one on top, 4/3. So I'm going to convert that right here. I know that means division. So 4/3, we're going to Tybo or divide the numerator by the denominator. So top in, bottom out. Now this one looks different. You know, we've been kind of used to the bigger number being on the outside, but this is an improper fraction, so we're doing good. The numerator goes in. All right, 3 goes into 4 one time. 3 times 1 is 3. Now we can subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. We have to add a decimal and a 0 because there was no other numbers. Decimal goes up, 0 goes down. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Oh, kind of run out of space, so I'm going to write a little bit smaller. All right, 10 minus 9 is 1. Add another 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, you get 1. So notice we got a remainder of 1 3 times in a row, and my numbers up here are starting to repeat, so I'm done. My decimal is 1.3 repeating. So I'm going to line that up, 1.3 repeating. And then I have one more fraction that I'm actually going to convert down here just so I give myself a little bit more room, just in case. Now notice this is a negative fraction. So I'm going to put my negative right here. It's lined up with this negative up here so I don't forget about it before I Tybo or divide. Top in, bottom out. 8 cannot go into 3 because it's bigger. So I put a 0. I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. Decimal goes up. 8 goes into 30 3 times, which is 24. And we're going to subtract. Remember, when you're subtracting, instead of having to borrow, just count up until you get to 30. So starting at 24, I get 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Stop when you get to the top number. And how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I subtract, I would get 6. All right, I'm going to add another 0 because I've got a remainder. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract. All right, again, we're going to count up. So 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. So I added 1, 2, 3, 4. My remainder is 4. And we're going to add another 0 because I still cannot have a remainder. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract, I get a remainder of 0. All right, so now I'm allowed to stop. My decimal, though, was not a positive 375 thousandths. It was a negative. I already have it here, so I don't forget about it. So 0.375. All right, so step 1 and 2 are actually done. Convert all numbers to decimals, line up the decimals. I did that as I was going along. I've got decimals here, and my place values are lined up. Step number 3 is to add zeros, or repeating digits, I've mentioned earlier, to make all numbers have the same place value. All right, so I don't have a place value here, so I can put a 0. My biggest place value is thousandths, so all of them need to go to the thousandths. So I'm going to add a 0 here. Oops, sorry. All right, I'm going to actually add 2 zeros here. 1. And this digit was repeating, so I'm not going to put zeros, I'm actually going to put 3s. If I did put zeros, you would have noticed that this number and this number would have been the exact same, and that can't happen. So because this was repeating, you put a 3. All right, now we're going to order them. We need to put them in order from greatest to least. Remember, guys, if you've got negative and positive numbers, your greatest values have to be your positive numbers. So always place them first, because those are easy. Now, we're putting our greatest first. Now, this is a little cheat. But the reason I have you put add the zeros is because now we can forget about decimal place value, which I'll kind of mess up on for some reason. So now that we have all the numbers have the same place value, we can just pretend this is like the decimal's gone, and this number is 1,333. This is negative 90, 1,300, 850, and then negative 375. Little cheat. That's just, kind of quick, easy way to compare them instead of worrying about place value, decimal place value. All right, so my greatest one, my biggest one has to be one of these, my positives. So I have 1,333, 1,300, or 850. The biggest one is right here. So I'm not going to put this. I'm going to put the original form 4/3. Cross them off as I place them so I don't use them more than once. All right, now that one's gone, my remaining biggest one is the 1,300, or the 1.3, which was originally 1.3. And then my last positive one was the 8,500ths, or 85%. Again, make sure you're putting them in the original form. That's why we kept them over here. All right, now I have 2 negatives. So remember, negatives are a little tricky. We're doing greatest to least. So the greatest one is actually the one closest to 0. So which one of these is closest to 0? Negative 90, or negative 375, negative 90, or negative 0.09. And then the smallest value for negative is actually farthest away from 0, so negative 3/8. Oh, put that there so we don't get it confused. All right, guys, that's it. Make sure you follow my 4 steps. Convert all numbers into decimals, line up the decimals, add your zeros, your place values to make them place values look the same, and then you can put them in order. Hope this is helpful. Y'all have a great day. We'll do example number 2 tomorrow. Please let me know if y'all have any questions or need any help. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.